Welcome to the Movies of the Damn podcast. My name is Kyle Grant, and I'm sitting here with my friend and published horror author, John Hunt. If you enjoy what you hear here today, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, check out our Facebook page, and follow us on both Instagram and Twitter, @DamnMovies. Email us any questions, comments, and suggestions to moviesofthedamned@gmail.com. For further details on John's published works, please visit his blog, johnhuntfiction.wordpress.com. Today, we'll be discussing Ari Aster's 2018 film, Hereditary. The movie opens as Annie grieves the death of her mother, Ellen, with her husband, Steve, son, Peter, and daughter, Charlie. Annie's grief soon escalates, as soon after, Charlie is decapitated in a car accident. Annie begins attending a support group and forms a friendship with member Joan. Joan eventually teaches Annie how to conduct a seance so she can communicate with Charlie. This seance seemingly works, but it's soon revealed that Joan and Ellen were actually friends and members of a coven, and that the seance actually released a demon who takes over Peter. The movie ends with Annie and Steve dead, and coven members surrounding Peter, bowing and swearing an oath to him. Just to let everyone know, this movie was suggested to us by Blake. He reached out to us over email and let us know that he just started listening to the podcast and would love to hear an episode on Hereditary. So that's how we got here today. John, opening thoughts on the movie?
Okay, I just have to say thanks to Blake because I've never seen this movie before, and
Oh, you'd never seen this?
no, man, I loved it. I should have seen it before, so I know Toni Collette, who played Annie. She was in a show called United States of Terror. You ever see that?
I never have, no.
She does a great job in that show, so I knew she was a great actor, and she's also the mom of the boy in The Sixth Sense.
Oh my gosh, she is.
Yeah, so she's been around. Then you have Gabriel Byrne, the dad, who's from Usual Suspects.
Mm-hmm.
He's awesome. He's been around. He's great. So I should have watched this. There's a good cast, right?
Yeah, I'm surprised that you didn't because it also got rave reviews, and we'll get into that later. But yeah, I'm surprised you never seen this movie.
Yeah, so I never saw it, and I just want to say thanks. This is a great film. And a unique thing that happened was that I got my wife watched it with me. She never watches horror movies, but I told her because Toni Collette was in it. She said, "Oh yeah, I'll watch that," because she used to watch that show United States of Terror I was talking about. So yeah, I'll watch that. So she got a good scare out of it. So
And did she enjoy it?
yeah, she did enjoy it. She's not really like, it's not so supernatural films don't bother her in the sense because she doesn't believe in the supernatural to that extent. Like it's not like so like when the movie's over, she's not scared. It's like she wouldn't go to bed and be like thinking about it or be scared, right?
Yeah.
And I'm the exact same way, right? So I'm more like, if I watch a slasher film and it's very scary, or a murder film is very scary, I might look at the closet a little weird. But supernatural films, I don't, right? It's only in the moment. So like she really enjoyed it. Thought it was very well done, and so did and it's really hard. She's a very tough critic on horror movies. So like it was for that I'd say this is just a well done movie.
A confession for you.
Yep.
So I saw this when it first came out in theaters.
Okay.
And honestly, I didn't love it the first time I saw it.
Really?
And I don't know what it was because I enjoyed it much more the second time through.
Yeah.
But maybe I was expecting something different. This might not kind of be like a typical horror movie. It doesn't follow that normal kind of tons of jump scares and things like that.
Yeah.
And so maybe I was just expecting something different. I don't want to say it was slow in parts, but there definitely was a bit of a build.
Holy cow! At no point did I find this slow.
No, and again, I loved it much more the second time. And the second time through, I kind of picked up on a lot more things. I'm like, oh, this is a clue to that, and this goes with that type of thing.
Yeah.
And so I give this a positive review. I enjoyed it much more the second time. I just had to confess to you that the first time I'm like, what's all the hoopla about with this thing? But I definitely did enjoy it when I just watched it for this podcast now.
Well, that's good because it was actually really good. So let's explore this a little more. So Hereditary, the title itself, what did that mean to you when you first thought of it? When you first saw the movie, what did that mean in terms of this movie for you?
I guess like things being passed down from generation to generation.
Yeah, and that's normal. That's the standard one, right? So I just mean, what was passed down in terms of this movie, though? Right? What were you thinking when you first watched it?
Mental illness.
Right? So they had two themes, though. They had the theme of hereditary mental illness, which when Annie went to that grief recovery, she explained almost her whole family history in a short exposition, which was,
and it sounded horrible.
yeah, but it was brilliant. Like, you know how much information there was in that small exposition?
Yeah.
It was awesome. So you're exploring two things. You're exploring the mental illness aspect, and you're exploring the supernatural aspect, right? Because there was supernatural aspect to it, but you didn't know which one it was, right? So I thought that was very, very clever. So she saw her mom in her room, right, in the corner at that point, and then and then there's also brought to the attention when she first meets Joan. Joan's outside the grief recovery place. You don't really remember seeing her inside the thing, right? So the first few times that she's running into Joan, no one else sees her. So in a lot of other films, when no one else sees this person that you've suddenly met or whatever, it could mean one of two things, right? That person's not real, or that because it's part of your own mental illness and you're creating this person to forge your own narrative in your head, or she's part of this group that the grandma was a part of. And then there's so many small things that were going on in this that I thought, okay, well, it must be supernatural because there's too many weird things going on, right? So it's like when Charlie was standing over her grandmother's casket, and that weird guy with the spiked blonde hair was sitting there smiling, staring at her.
You can't just call it smiling. It was like grinning, like a Joker type of grin.
So it was like, and then I was thinking, okay, well, maybe the hereditary aspect is that they're passing down the ability to see ghosts.
Oh.
Right? So I thought that might be part of it. But then, but you don't know. And there's so many different breadcrumbs. You cannot really get a good handle on it, but they're all plausible. So they make the story very well put together. So I was very happy with that. So, the symbol on the necklace and all that type of stuff.
Yeah.
That was on the pole that decapitated the daughter.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So when they were first going to the party, they stopped at that pole and it has the symbol of the necklace on it. So I'm like, okay, that pole's going to be involved somehow. I had no idea it was going to take the daughter's head off.
I didn't pick up on that at all. That's wild.
No, I saw it and I noted it. So it's just like, I was like, okay, well, that's weird.
Yeah.
So, and then, so then on the way back, there were some small tidbits that, were kind of annoying in the overall part of the film, right? So, but they were so small to the whole thing. And then, but you go on and tell me what you liked about it. And then, because there's some parts that I want to discuss with you that I didn't really think about until after I was lying in bed. I was like, oh, okay.
So it kind of left some things with you.
Yeah.
The one scene that I loved that terrified me is when Peter and Charlie are at that party, and she kind of finds Peter, and she's kind of having that like anaphylactic reaction to the nuts that was in the cake.
Yeah.
And she can't breathe, and she's kind of wheezing a little bit, and then they're in the car, and like I'm on the edge of my seat there, right? I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And then I didn't see the decapitation coming either the first time I'd seen it.
Yeah.
That was wild. But then what I thought was even more wild is that they kind of present it like, okay, we know that this has happened, but we're not going to really show anything. Right? As in, like, they're not going to show the head or anything like that.
Oh, yeah.
It
They
kinda
didn't show that
happens,
till later,
and
yeah.
then, and then he goes home, and he goes and lies in bed, and then you kind of, like, the camera focusing on his face as you hear, like, the mom, Annie, in the background finding the body.
Yeah.
And then it flashes to the head that's kind of rotting on the ground, right?
Yeah.
And like, that made me jump, right? Because I did not expect that at all. So that kind of really, that whole sequence of events, that whole scene terrified me. And then the kind of the payoff moment at the end there really caught me off guard.
So you see, it didn't terrify me. I just didn't know where it was going, right? So
choking? I can't. Choking, drowning. Those two things would terrify me more than anything, I think.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, I guess I was just kind of putting myself in the position of Charlie.
No, that's
there,
very
not being able
empathetic
to
of
breathe.
you. Very nice. You're a hell of a nice guy. So, but what I was more like, so they're at the party full of teenagers. No one has an EpiPen. You think someone there would be allergic to something. Especially like now, you know what I mean? Like, or at least you would ask. Like, has anyone got an EpiPen?
Yeah, like as he's like dragging her out, like, does anyone have an EpiPen? Something like that, right? But
Yeah.
I do get throwing her in the car and trying to get her to a hospital.
Yeah, so typically you have 20 minutes, right?
Yeah.
Depending on how severe your allergy is.
Yeah, but like, how long did it take her to find him?
No, I know that's not what I mean though, right? I just mean that he could ask for that, call like, and maybe that is your first instinct to get in the car and drive with her. I don't know though. I think it'd be, I don't know what I'd do in this situation, so I'm not going to project myself on that. I just thought it was odd that like you're at a house party full of teenagers, and like almost everyone's allergic to something nowadays. You think one of them would have an EpiPen and you would ask for it.
Yeah.
That's all. That's the only thing I had about that.
Okay, and so that's one thing that you're questioning. How about his decision making of after the decapitation, he drives home and gets into bed?
See, I didn't know. I said that was interesting to me because I didn't know, because of the whole hereditary part, right? About the mental illness, right? So it's like, my mom had it, my brother had it, like it was, all throughout, and you could see Charlie was a little odd, at the very beginning. So there's a lot of that going on, right? So I didn't know if like, in the morning Charlie was going to walk in his room and go, hey, or
hey, that was fun last night.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like I didn't know what was going to, and then he'd be like, what? So I didn't know if they're going to try to show his deterioration or if it actually happened or not.
Because at that point you kind of didn't know which way the movie was going.
Yes, right? So but because it was that pole with the symbol on it, I was like, okay, that also made it think, okay, maybe this is a supernatural thing, right? That she's not dead, or there's something going on here, that he's certain that she was dead because he saw her head on the side of the road, whatever the case may be, or saw something on the side, whatever. He was certain she was dead, so then he starts to question his own mental illness, but it also has a supernatural hint to it. I didn't know what was going on really, and which is refreshing. I really like that when I can't guess, and they're leaving all these breadcrumbs. I love it when they do it that way, and I think they did a very good job with that.
No, fair enough, right? And this movie was kind of all over the place. But with any movie, there's going to be things that we kind of have to question and be like, come on now.
Yep.
How about when she tells her husband, I'm going to the movie, and she just leaves?
Yeah.
That kind of, I'm like, really? Like, if me and my wife were coming home from a funeral, be it any funeral or like the funeral of her mother, and she's just like, yeah, I'm going to a movie, I might ask some follow-up questions there.
No, but here's the thing, and this is why I thought it was very clever the way they set it up, right? Because when they got home from the funeral, the first thing she asks her husband is like, should I feel sad? She doesn't know how to feel. So,
okay.
Right from that question, you know what you get? What was their relationship? Did they even like each other?
Yeah.
What was going on here? Like,
well, they'd been married for a prolonged period of time. That was what I got.
No. You're asking.
Oh, sorry. So the relationship between the mother and the daughter, between
Yeah.
Annie and Ellen, yeah.
Right? So, like, her going to a movie, who cares? And they didn't show anything prior to that would be an odd thing for her to do, or that'd be
maybe
normal.
she always went to movies by herself.
Who knows?
I guess I just, again, put myself there, and I'm like,
Yeah.
my wife has never been to a movie by herself in her life, and I just couldn't imagine her just walking up to me, yeah, I'm just going to a movie. Oh.
Yeah. So they didn't give any indication in the movie that was an odd thing.
Yeah, it just
Right?
would raise flags to me.
Yeah, because it was personally resonated with you.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? But you've gone to a movie alone, right?
I have, yes.
Yeah, so if your wife asked, if I'm going to go to a movie, she wouldn't be like, oh, really? Right? You know what I mean? So it's just, for some people it's normal, for some people it's not, and maybe it was normal for them.
Yeah.
They didn't show it for whether or not it was, right?
No, fair enough. And then switching back kind of to a question you asked me earlier, what did I love about this movie? And you probably already guessed this. Those seances always freak me out. When like the writing on the chalkboard.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh! Like every time, like I just it gives me the shivers. Like gives me goosebumps. I'm like, oh my gosh. We're like, I know this is a movie. I know it's not really a ghost writing on the chalkboard, but I did love that when kind of Annie was doing her own seance in front of her family.
Yeah.
And then her husband kind of like looks under the table to like, I thought that was so cool, right?
That
like,
was good, yeah.
And I could see myself doing something like that. Like if I was actually in this situation, I'd be like, what's going on here? And I like
see,
look
that's when it
underneath.
transitioned from mental illness to supernatural. That was the definitive thing, because only up until that point, Annie was the only one seeing these things, right? And she only one experiencing these things, and no one had met Joan, right? But going back to the chalk thing, I was like, that is amazingly neat writing for a 7-year-old.
Interesting. That's a good point.
That's what I thought at the
That
time.
never even crossed my mind. But yeah, that is another clue to be like, this isn't how a child would write. Interesting.
That's what I thought at the time, anyways.
A question that I'd written down for you, but I already kind of know the answer to this because you kind of explained how like it was showing that like she was the only one seeing Joan, so is Joan like not there, or is Joan like a setup?
Yep.
You kind of saw the twist coming that Joan
Yeah, for sure.
was a friend of Ellen's.
Well, only because, but I didn't know until, because I didn't really know if, what Joan's status was until she was across the street yelling at Peter. Because then I was like, oh, so Peter can see Joan, and then in Joan's apartment just prior to that was his picture in that triangle.
Yeah, that's right. And then
Right?
there was kind of the breadcrumb laid early when Annie was kind of like, oh, look at that mat. My mom made mats like that or something like that.
Well, but also remember when after the mom's funeral, in her mom's room there was a triangle on the floor.
Oh yeah.
Right, so there was a tie-in there, right?
You kind of see the connections going.
Yeah, for sure.
And it caught me off guard. I didn't realize that they were friends. I didn't see all that coming.
No, but I knew you knew she would be revisiting. I didn't really know. I just knew that it was possible.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
You knew she wasn't who she said she was. You knew that
Exactly.
she wasn't just a support group
She was
member.
definitely a setup, right? Because the whole seance thing was a setup,
Yeah.
right?
It ended up being the way that demon got released.
Well, I don't mean it in that way. I just mean like the way it was. Like you saw the seance card go in the mailbox.
Yep.
And then it was like, oh, running into her at the place, and right after that was like running into Joan at the supermarket. And it's the seance, this whole thing. It was clearly a setup. I was like, this is not genuine. So it was definitely a device for the film, right? And Joan was the person pushing it forward.
And then the other kind of twist, and I don't even know if I can call it a twist because I don't know if there's any way that you could have predicted it, but there was some kind of clues early, with Ellen's body ending up in the attic.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was wild, and there was kind of the clue early on where he gets the phone call saying that the grave was desecrated or whatever.
Well, it's like I got a phone. It's a cemetery.
Yeah.
Right, and then he takes phone. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Can I call you back? That's all you get from it, right?
No, it's like desecrated. What does that mean, or something like that? Yeah.
Oh, I didn't. Because I thought Annie was right there, and then he asked, "What was that about?" She asked, "What was that about?" And he lies to her.
Yeah. What do you say?
Right?
Billing or cost? Or
Yeah, billing. Like right. So it's like that's one of those things. Like, why is he lying? I noted. I was like, okay, well, he's lying for.
Well, because he doesn't want to upset her.
Well, but once again, because of that breadcrumb laid earlier or dropped earlier about should I be sad? You don't know if she would be upset, or if, you know what I mean? Like, you don't know, right? So you don't know what her reaction would be to that, whether she would have a plausible reaction or an over-the-top reaction, because they're laying that groundwork, right?
And you would think that after he got that phone call, okay, perhaps he doesn't want to talk in front of his wife or like worry her, but you would think there'd be some type of follow-up scene where he goes and looks into it.
Yeah, phones them back like he said he was going to.
It's like, hey, so what's exactly going on here?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
And then when he finds out the body's missing, obviously then he has to talk to his wife about it, but the body just kind of shows up in their attic.
Yeah. No, that was it. I really like this movie. I didn't have a problem. Like, I thought that was all actually pretty cool, because it does tie in. It's just like, but you couldn't. There was a slim possibility of seeing that, but seeing that maybe the body was dug up, but I don't think there was any possibility of seeing the body in the attic.
No.
Right? Because no one was ever. The attic was never mentioned. It was never. I didn't even know it existed until that scene. Right? Like, no one ever went up in the attic. No one did anything in the attic until that part. So I didn't even know they had an attic.
And then kind of like that last kind of, I want to say final 20 minutes of the film was absolutely wild. Like throwing the book in the fire and he lights on fire.
Yeah.
Wow.
I know.
And then kind of Peter wakes up and he's kind of stumbling around the house, running into these naked people everywhere.
Yeah.
Like, that leaves a lasting crazy image in your mind, right?
I know. And it was the first one that was it him? Yeah, I think it was that he sees is that weird guy from the funeral.
Yeah.
In the corner there, and I'm like, geez, this is so good, this movie.
And then it was terrifying when he kind of like So Annie is kind of, I want to call her possessed or
Yeah.
out of her mind or whatever.
No, she's
And she
possessed
kinda-
by grandma,
Yeah, and
by her mom.
she kind of chases him up to the attic.
Yeah.
And then she's there kind of pounding her head
I was gonna say that. That was really good.
on like I don't even know what to call it, the entryway to the attic,
Yeah.
the door.
The drop door.
And he is lying there and he's doing a great job. He's like, "Mommy, please stop." And I'm just like, oh my gosh. And you know what? I think it's so realistic in the way that when somebody who's that age, cause I put him at what, 17 maybe?
Yeah.
When they're experiencing some huge stress, he would revert back to like a childish way of talking, right?
Yeah, but he was always vulnerable. He was always they showed him that way throughout, right? He didn't talk much. He liked his weed, and not that that means anything. It just means that they're just trying to illustrate that there's a lot going on in his mind, and he's just trying to calm it down, right? So, and which is also drew me back to the mental illness hereditary issue, right? Yeah.
No, and it was very interesting. And I just thought that ending was just like so weird, so wild. And I remember when I first saw the movie, and as I said, I didn't love it the first time, but I did like the ending in that it just left you with that uneasy feeling. And it's like, oh my gosh, like what did you think of the ending? Were you okay with it?
Like I said, I really liked the ending. Tied everything together for me. So, remember. She goes into his room because she's talking about sleepwalking and having the lighter fluid and was going to set or paint thinner and set him on fire and everyone on fire, all that. Remember that scene?
Yeah.
And then she says, quite candidly, "I never wanted you," right?
Oh, like that was wild. And she like kind of like covers up her mouth right away, like, "Oh, I can't believe I said that."
Yeah, and
that was kind of cool. It's like an Inception thing, right? It was like a dream within a dream almost.
Yeah, but I think that point was that second time where she says those actual things that it wasn't a dream.
Well, it's like she kind of wakes up, or she thinks she wakes up and sees the ants crawling everywhere.
Yes.
And then goes to Peter's room and then sees him
he
rotting,
ends up being...
and the ants are coming out of him. And then it's as if she was sleepwalking and wakes up, and Peter's like, "What are you doing, Mom?" And then she says those awful things and then wakes up again. So that's what I mean.
I thought it was
like a dream within a dream.
I thought that was when she says those awful things after she was pulling on his head and said, "I wasn't pulling on your head."
I think that was separate scenes, but I could be wrong.
Either I could be wrong too. So the sequence doesn't really matter. What does matter is how they set it up. So she says those things, and either or not, whether Peter hears them or not, or if it's a dream or not, those were real, genuine outbursts, right? And then he asks why, and then she says she was scared, but her mom made her have them, right? And so it was the entire time, and then at the very beginning was a note from Mom to her saying, "You'll see, Annie, it'll be worth it in the end," right? That very first note. And then so this was all the stuff that you're going through will be worth it in the end. So like even then they're setting it up. They're setting up her children to become this what was his name? Payman?
Yeah, it was something like that.
Yeah. So it's the 10th or the 8th devil of hell or something. Payman. That was his name. Payman.
Yeah, yes.
So, and then at the very end when they show that light coming down, right? And going into the back of Peter.
And that was kind of like when he got taken over, right?
Yeah. But he was taken over by Charlie.
Yeah, which I thought was kind of strange. I didn't really understand that because, and at the end they call him Charlie.
Yes. So this is what I was going to ask you about, because this is what it seems to me. It was set up this way, right? So they called him. They had Peter, but it wasn't. They needed a vulnerable person for this Damon or whatever it was, right? And then because they said, "Charlie, we brought you forward in your imperfect female form," right? So they called Payman into Charlie, but because it was female, he needs to be in a male body.
Yeah.
So then it can only take over their vulnerable body. So they set it all up so she could be put into Peter to be brought into this world.
Interesting.
Right? So that I was like looking at that and going, and then because it ties back to the earlier stuff of what she was saying, right, where she tried to burn her son and because she knew what he would become because the mom was setting it up that way.
Oh, and she kind of.
Yeah,
Okay.
because they're bringing a devil to Earth.
Yeah.
So the mom kind of knew this and knew something along those lines of what was going on. There's some weirdness going on.
And so that's why she wanted to light everyone on fire.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So these insights for that, right? So so for the ending, I really liked because they tied it all together that way.
And they really did a good job of closing the loop almost, right?
Yeah, I don't know why everyone had to be decapitated.
Yeah.
I don't know why that
was. The decapitated bodies there bowing, right?
Yes, but everyone was bowing.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So it didn't need to be decapitated for that reason, because everyone was doing that. So that's what I mean. Like there's so many little things that you didn't know what was going on the entire time, and at the end it turned out to be supernatural. Like, oh my God, but you didn't really know. It was just everything was set up so well. I really enjoyed this movie. The acting was superb.
Oh, the acting was very good in this movie. All the characters.
Yeah, the writing was well done. Like, I really enjoyed this movie.
And you know what? So did critics. Rotten Tomato critic score 89.
Mm-hmm.
Audience score 65.
What the?
Big swing. And you know what? Maybe that was just like I said, when I first saw this movie, I was expecting something different. I was expecting more of a classic horror movie setup, and then maybe when people didn't get that, they kind of turned their noses up at it a little bit.
I don't know. Like I don't know why you want the same. Right? This is not the same.
Well, not necessarily wanting the same. It's just expectations.
Yeah.
Did well at the box office. $10 million budget, ended up bringing in a little over $79 million.
Good.
Yeah, and so that's a great return.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't know if it's possible to see a sequel to this. I doubt there would be.
No. No.
What would you do? I'm just speaking in terms of that it did so well at the box office. Sometimes studios like to kind of try and capitalize off a franchise, right? But I just have no idea what path this would go on.
No. It'd be Peter taking over the world.
Or a prequel.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah, I hate it when they do prequels, though. Because you already know what the ending's going to be.
No, fair enough.
Right? I don't really like prequels too much for that reason. But I thought, I really liked this movie. It's just, there's so, like even at the party when Peter leaves Charlie alone, and just before, like from far away at the very beginning, you see them chopping walnuts, right? And you're like, she's allergic to nuts. Like there's so many.
Did we know that already as a viewer?
Yeah, we did.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
we did. So, because actually it was, go eat the chocolate cake or whatever. I'm like, why is that such a big deal? And Louise says, well, she's allergic to nuts. Like Louise told me, right? So it's like, oh. Yeah, so then they did say it, and I knew that. I just forgot, right? But I was actually, why are they showing the nuts so much? Because they show it so much, them chopping the nuts with a knife.
That is pretty cool. This movie was different, though. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's what makes it good to me.
Well, fair enough. But can you see why some people might kind of be like, "Oh, this isn't for me"?
See, it's hard for me to project on what other people think. It's just like, when I could only tell you the reasons why I liked it, right? And the difference, it being different was a huge thing, but that's not even just it though. It was different in a way that was still cohesive and it made sense, and it had so many red herrings up in the air, or different balls juggling in the air, then you didn't know really where it was going to go, but you also kind of did. It was just very well put together. So
and it was, but it was different in that there was no real like action, not a ton of jump scares. Like,
well, I thought I could tell you, my wife jumped quite a bit. So, and she's not really
okay.
You know what I mean? So there were some jump scares that I thought is the hair kind of stood up on my body a few times. And that happened in The Conjuring. It doesn't really happen too often to me, right? So when Annie came running out of the corner at her son, before you saw her hanging out at the top of the wall, like that was a good one. There's a lot of really good parts to this, and yeah, I think go going back to the seance, though, I thought it was interesting that it was the first time. I thought when Tony, or sorry, I'm calling her by her actual name, but when Annie, like, her hair moves and she's like, or she feels something at first and she twitched, I thought, oh, she's such a good actor. Like, she did such a good job in this. I really enjoyed that, and that made the hair stand up, because it's like something, she made it real that there was something in the room.
And again, I can't echo those words enough. Very well acted. So then, with as much as you liked it, would you be an 89 as well with the critics, or are you a little bit higher?
For what it was, like I said, like, from what I'm judging it on, for what it was trying to do and everything, like, there were some. So it's one of those ones where you couldn't absolutely, if you predicted how this was going to end, it was 50-50, right? So, or I don't want to say that. It was like maybe 80-20. If you have to very much pay attention to everything that's going on, you might be able to predict where this ended. So I like being able to know how a movie's going to end, not necessarily while it's on, but afterwards. You'd be able to say, okay, I should have seen this because this, and this, or I could have guessed this because they set up this way,
and
right?
That's how I felt watching the second time through, when I, like, picked up on all these things. I'm like, oh, here's the clue for that. Here's the clue for this.
Yeah. So when it makes sense like that, I'm a huge fan. But I also I like it. I like the potential to be there when you watch it the first time, and I don't think it was quite there.
Okay.
So I would give it an 85.
Okay, so you'd be right in that range, though.
Yeah, 85 to 90 for sure. Like, I even might hit a 90 on this one, because I enjoyed it that much. Like, it was so refreshing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well, buddy, anything else to add on this one?
Nope, nothing.
All right. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Check out our Facebook page, and follow us on both Twitter and Instagram @DamnMovies. We want to hear what you thought of today's podcast and any suggestions you have, especially in terms of what movies you'd like us to discuss next. Send us an email to moviesofthedamned@gmail.com. Please also check out John's full-length novels. His first two novels, Dollhouse and The Tracker, are Amazon bestsellers, and his new novella, Balance, is also available on Amazon. You can pre-order John's newest full-length novel, Off the Grid, right now at blackrosewriting.com. For further details on John's other published works, please visit his blog, johnhuntfiction.wordpress.com. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.
That's right, everyone. Thanks for listening. Have a great week. Be kind, everyone.